Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Got 10 Minutes, brought to you by Samelogic, the ultimate social product development network where we mine ideas from anyone and anywhere. Whether you're a product manager, or a UX designer, or an engineer, just passionate about building fantastic products, this podcast is for you. In this corner of the internet, we delve deep into the minds of industry leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and visionaries to bring you practical insights and valuable lessons and compelling stories from the dynamic world of product development. And today, we're absolutely thrilled to have a very special guest joining us. Rohan Katyal, an engineer turned product manager who is like building some really cool stuff at Meta, has a rich portfolio of experience with products, work at products like WhatsApp, Yelp, and also Yahoo. Rohan has certainly made a substantial impact in the world of technology. His journey spans from leading growth for business messaging across Meta's family of apps, and driving adoption to 4 million advertisers, to working on a secretive 0 to 1 product at Meta's internal incubator, and even founding a company to help nonprofits raise capital efficiently. Always at the forefront of innovation, Rohan is here to share his vast experiences, his insights into building delightful products, and his wisdom on overcoming challenges in this ever-changing technology landscape. So grab a cup of your favorite drink and sit back and get ready for this enlightening conversation. Remember, it only takes 10 minutes to change your product development mindset. So without further ado, let's welcome Rohan to the show. Rohan, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that introduction.
Awesome, no problem. So let's jump right into it. So you've made a transition from being an engineer to a product manager. How has your engineering background influenced your approach towards product management?
Yeah. So I've full-time career for clarity's sake. Full-time career. I've always been a PM. I'm an engineer by training. Went to undergrad and grad school for both computer science, and full-time career. Always been a PM. I think starting out as an engineer, just even like by training, it gave me that perspective on, how products are built, how fundamentally, how like different aspects of a product work. It really helped me understand tactically what it takes to like build something or what it would take to build a particular solution, as opposed to it's helpful to envision what the end outcome would look like. But having an engineering mindset, it's a very like problem solving mindset, and it helps you it helps you gain the tactical understanding of what goes in the back end. It's
Mm.
hard to, I think great PMs always have some understanding of how things work under the hood.
Got it. And like working on that gives you like a better understanding of how to communicate with engineers as well. Because I think that's one of the biggest problems like non-technical PMs always have. Like, how have you used that power to communicate better with like engineering and better with like other teams and other stakeholders?
Absolutely. I think one, it helps you develop more empathy for engineers.
Mm.
It also helps you build a closer trust and relationship with them, because engineers would understand and appreciate that you know what you're talking about. You understand like what APIs are, how things work, everything can't be done in a week, why something takes like 3 weeks versus 4 weeks. So you can have these conversations. One is building trust with engineers. Second is you can envision trade-offs better. You figure out like, if we don't invest in like 7 weeks of engineering to tackle a particular problem, what can go bad if we shorten the timeline? This helps you make better trade-offs. I think these are like the two primary things where I've leveraged my engineering background. One is to build a stronger, better relationship with engineers. Second is to be able to make these trade-offs in a more informative manner, to be able to figure out, if we don't invest in a particular aspect of the product, what are we losing out on or what are we gaining?
So you're working on an unannounced product at like the new product experimentation incubator at Meta. How challenging is it to work on something secretive, and what kind of creative freedom does it offer?
Yeah, I think working when I was in India, I founded my own company. And that experience really made me realize that I'd really enjoy starting things from the ground up. Like building 0 to 1 products is super fun. You feel extreme ownership. You're at the ground floor. You can move fast. You're not bound by any decisions that have been made. I just find all of that and the endless possibilities really exciting. So working at Facebook and their incubator has been a super, super rewarding experience. it obviously offers more, creative freedom than being in a more mature product because you can go in any direction. You're not bound by how people perceive what people do. But there are certain uh, there's like certain problems that Facebook or like I worked in a new product team at Yahoo as well. So like Yahoo cares about or like Facebook cares about, like it's not like Facebook's going to get up tomorrow and start building, I don't know, email, for example. I don't know, maybe they do, but like there's certain like kinds of problems that certain broad themes that you're bound to. But generally speaking, you're way faster than most other teams because there's less to lose. Secondly, there's more creative freedom because you can work on more different kind of problems, take different directions. And the third is you can pivot whenever, right? You can like move fast, you can pivot, you can try a bunch of different things. So it's been like super, super fun from that perspective. But also the flip side of that is when you work on something which already reaches out to billions or whatever, millions of people, your impact is like a lot from day one. But on your products, you might spend like 6 months, you might spend a year, and might spend a year and realize that it went nowhere. So sometimes it feels like it's rewarding to have a successful product, but it's also disappointing when things don't work out. And it's more likely that it won't work out than it will. Because it's a new product, you're starting out from the ground up.
Mm. So having built like products for over 200 million SMBs and for different platforms like WhatsApp and Instagram and Yelp and Yahoo, what are some of the common challenges that you've encountered, and like what are some of the key ways you've kind of navigated those challenges?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. So let me see. I think some of the most valuable lessons that have come out of these experiences is number one, like never underestimate the power of talking directly with your users.
Mm.
I've seen so many teams, they get up caught up in their work, pushing features out left and right, and they forget to just sit down and talk to their users. That's a big no-no in my book. You can read all the research you want, you can read all the reports that you want, but like just talking directly to your users, there is no substitute for that. We were building out a product for creators called Super, which we sunsetted last year. But like some of those creators had my personal phone number. They'd be hosting an event, they'll text me if they're running into problems. And this helps you realize how they use your product and things that don't end up in a research report. So there's no substitute, to directly talking to your users. Second, there's no such thing as over communication. Things will go bad. There will be miscommunication, but you just need to over communicate. It's better to have too much information than not enough. So many
Mm.
times execution just breaks down because people did not over communicate or just communicate with each other. Third, I think always have your eyes on the prize, impact. Think about it like this. Impact is the magic ingredient that makes a product more valuable. I'd love for everyone on the team to be able to say how their work and our collective efforts are solving real world problems for people. And finally, proactively help your team scale.
Mm.
I like to always think about like one level ahead in terms of assuming like things right now are going fine. I always like to think about one step ahead of what processes or what would the team need to function and execute at one level higher. If the product grew tomorrow, if there were more people. So I like to be a cheerleader for the team, knock down any roadblocks and like build strong partnerships for the team and keep those relationships and resources, everything handy, get leads aligned, and also like help team make independent decision making by leveraging frameworks and principles to scale the decision making around in the team. I think four things: never estimate the power of talking with your users. There is no such thing as over communication. Always focus on impact and proactively help your team scale.
Mm. Okay, let's jump back a bit to the over communication bit. A lot of
Yeah.
times, I think there are so many teams that don't really have a system set up when it comes on to, like communicating. For example, like a lot of teams use Slack, a lot of teams use Notion, like different tools. But what systems when it comes on to communicating, or what cadence, or like how is over communication or communication in that sense structured or done in the best way? How do you think it could be done in the best way?
Yeah, I'm not I'm not tied to I think any particular app or tool. Most companies I've been in, they have their own, have their own stack. They've used different tools and stuff. But the thing that works is One is consistency in cadence and format. Right? Consistency goes a long way. People know when you post something, you will post it at the same time. You will share it with the exact same day, exact same time, the exact same format. Everyone cares about. No one will read the entire thing. No one cares about the entire like update or information that you're sharing. They care about some particular aspect of it. And if you post at the same time on the same cadence, at the same format, they know where to look at. So one is consistency across a format and cadence. Second is I personally put a high emphasis on framework and data. Without data, it's just an opinion, right? It helps move conversations away from ego. It helps conversations move away from like, here's what I've learned in the past. Here's what I did, in XYZ company. It tells you what the current truth is. So I think these two things are just absolute table stakes: consistency in cadence, consistency in format, and putting in high emphasis on framework and data. Now, this information and channel that works depends on who you're talking to. Your team, your execs, your like cross-functional partners, and different people might need it at different cadence or in a different format. They might care about different numbers or different aspects of this entire problem. So this part is a little more art than science. It requires you to develop emotional empathy. The first part is, more just discipline, consistency, data. That part is more discipline, but the other one is more art than science and requires you to develop some emotional empathy to realize what do your execs care about? Like Mark Zuckerberg doesn't get the same updates as I give to my manager. It boils down to like a few words for him, if ever it reaches him.
And we're gonna like switch gears a bit now. We're gonna talk about like things that you saw significant growth from. Like for example, you work with like click to WhatsApp ads, resulted like in a lot of growth. When it comes on to ideation and like just making sure things are executed properly, could you elaborate on the process behind that and like what is essential or important for you to make sure that you have something that is wildly successful or something that works in the way that you want it to work?
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a magic wand around this or like some secret formula, but like two things. So this was my job for Click to WhatsApp was primarily growth, right? The team before who had built the product, they built a fantastic product that businesses love, customers love. It just gives them, it's a very easy and intimate way for like customers to engage with their businesses and get their questions answered. So the product was phenomenal. So that made my job easy. The two things I think we focused on, which in hindsight, like help with everything. One is just have great people on your team. Like that feels like a cop out, but like we just had phenomenal folks on the team, engineers, designers, everyone has a solid growth mindset and everyone had worked on similar-ish problems before. So that really helped. There was a ton of ideas in the room. There was a ton of like, just great energy in the room that really helped. The team was very well suited to grow that product 10, 20 times. One is that hire great people bonus points if they've already solved similar-ish problems before. Second, and specifically for growth, the world was our oyster. We could build a new product, we could expand it to new users, we could drive acquisition, we could drive activation, we could get advertisers to like, get more value for them, get more advertisers to use them. Everything was an option. Initially, first quarter, we obviously talked to customers and looked at whatever data insights we could get. But at that point, we had no benchmark or past learnings except like general growth learnings. At that point, we went broad and tested out, generated a long list of like hypotheses. And we tested a bunch of hypotheses over a period of 2.5, 3 months. And as soon as we figured out the 2 or 3 that were working out that did well, we just went deep in all 3 of them until we had like juiced it out. Like, for example, acquisition and driving awareness seemed like a big lever. Even though advertisers who were using the product, they were finding value out of it, but ones who weren't using it, they were either not aware of it or they didn't understand how to exactly use the product. And once we realized that when we would educate and drive awareness for this product, they had very high intention to use it. So we just like doubled down on these 1, 2, 3 levers that worked. The 2 things: have great people, especially who have experience in the problem, go broad, have some insights on what might work, and if something works, just catch on to it and just like double, deep dive into it.
I love that. You've also mentioned that product managers aren't the CEOs of the product. Could you expand on that philosophy and like how it's influenced your product management style?
Yeah. When the first time I heard about the title of a product manager, someone mentioned to me the product manager is the CEO, and I thought this person's title. This I was an undergrad at that point, and this person's title has the word manager in it. Must be really, really important, and I got excited about it. Little did I know that neither of those two things are true. uh, so firstly, I think I don't know where this ideology comes from. CEOs have like very, very different responsibilities. Most cases they're responsible for most cases, all CEOs are responsible for profit and loss, P&Ls, hiring. There's like a million different things that CEOs do that PMs do not do. I think it's just one of those things that makes the job of a PM more, sound. It's like a marketing thing that in the end it makes it sound more like attractive than it is. It's very different. You're not responsible for like profit and loss. In most cases, some cases you are. You're not necessarily responsible for hiring in every, if you're not a PM manager. But I think the overlap, or where I think this analogy somewhat works, is the amalgamous nature of the role, right? Like a CEO will jump into whatever needs to be done. Like if the problem is hiring, I'll figure out hiring. If the problem is like sales, I'll figure out sales. Like they'll like jump into whatever they can to figure out. Similarly, for a PM, based on the context, you just do different things. There is when people ask me what is the job of a PM, I really, really struggle defining that. I don't know what's a good answer because like Yahoo was very different, Yelp was very different, WhatsApp is very different from NPE. It's like the same company. And I've been working on very different things. I've been in roles where I've been responsible for P&L. I've been in roles where my job for 2 months was just like pitching engineers to join our team. It's just like very different. I think that's where this analogy works a little bit, where your roles are very like ambiguous and you jump into like whatever needs to be done. But other than that, I think they're very different roles. There's no overlap whatsoever.
And how has that like really like influenced your style? Like, do you like when you encounter someone who thinks they're like a product manager who thinks they're the CEO of the product, and you kind of like want to like let them know exactly it's not necessarily this. Like, how does it like how does that help?
Well, I meet a lot of like associate and like new PMs who get in to like either want to be a PM or who've already gotten into like APM and RPM programs and want to do this and they've heard about this thing. And I'm like, you're getting into you're gonna be shocked when you learn what the job of a PM is. It's like it's like you get none of those responsibilities. Oftentimes you don't get it can be it's a lonely job, right? Sometimes it's a lonely job. You're like the only one who's supporting like 15, 20 people. Most teams have more than one person who's doing the same role, like more than one engineer or maybe more than one designer or have other people to lean on. But most teams only have one PMs. So firstly, it's like, it's a little lonely job. It's like very different from what you've heard about what CEOs do or like the kind of like influence you'll have. Like a lot of CEOs have influence because they are the CEO, right? They're the hiring authority. They're the boss per se, right? Like can influence and pull and have the final say on things. PMs don't have that. Like you influence because you make sense. You influence because you can make a case. You don't influence because you're a PM. So, helping people understand. I think most people, like even if you explain it to them, if they have this perspective, they might see your perspective on this, but once you feel it is when you realize PMs aren't the CEOs of the product. You just need to feel it to go through that phase to like learn how influencing without authority or just not having any of that organizational pull, how does all of that really work?
Mm. And looking back at your journey, from building like AI like shopping assistants at Yahoo and like working on like really cool things at Meta, how do you see this is a hot topic now. Everyone's like talking about like AI and everything, but how do you see the evolution of AI and product development and in particular product research?
Yeah. I think I personally in my day-to-day life, a lot of fundamentally how I use the internet has changed.
Mhm.
How I'm writing content, how I'm searching for content, how I'm getting answers to questions. it's like an assistant, right? ChatGPT has become my like go-to for a lot of these like behaviors in my personal life. Even for like, personal research or problems or things I'm interested in. And it helps me save so much time, whether I'm like crafting copy, sending a message, or like if there's a big article that I want to read, but you can't spend so much time, I just like, throw it into ChatGPT, get it to summarize it. So that's been super, super helpful. It's just, it's practically added a day, 1 hour every day for me. So one at that, I think personally, what's happening with our lives has become really clear. Now with Gen AI, and so obviously my perspective is more, I don't work on that space. I don't even, that's not something I do at work. So my perspective is very, very much from a consumer user of ChatGPT and Gen AI. It's going to be everywhere, right? Like it's just personal usage. You see how personally it's influencing your lives. You see a lot of like consumer interfaces popping up where like Gen AI, like Replica and so many different chatbots and so many systems popping up. Work has already been infiltrated from like how your content's ranked, how like different folks are recommending you stuff to like how you're creating assets. I think this is one of those fundamental changes where how we perceive and use technology is changing. Right? This is probably in one lifetime. I'd be surprised if we see such a fundamental change again.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
It's
So
fine. Is it the first time in weeks when my usage of Google search has gone down by how much it has? Right?
yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
ChatGPT has replaced my the pin. It's now one of the pinned apps on my phone.
yeah, yeah,
It's like a
yeah.
widget on my home screen.
Yeah, I didn't have any space on my my home screen. So I pretty much put the Slack icon in a folder and then had the ChatGPT icon there. And I use it more than Google now. It's kind of really interesting to see how this shift is happening in different industries is changing. This is my last question here. I really enjoy this conversation, and I ask everyone who comes onto the show this question. So in your experience, when you take into consideration everything that you've done, like what's one weakness that you've turned into your strength?
Yeah, I have a good one. When I joined Meta, I was introduced to a completely new approach to product management. Like it's a big company, there's like thousands of folks. And in this new world of product PMing, you always require to get continuous buy-in from executives. However, I soon realized that my storytelling wasn't resonating as intended, right? I hadn't flexed that muscle enough to realize when you're having to get like continuous buy-in from your own execs, your partner execs across like integrity or like WhatsApp or Instagram, you're like, pitching all the time. Like a large part of your job is getting people excited and getting a team funded and pitching. And my, pitch was either too detailed or lacked focus on the aspects that matter to the executives. Recognizing this, I took steps to refine my narrative, distilling the information down to the most critical points and tailoring the story to better meet the needs of my audience. I took a few steps to like, figure out how to like fix this narrative. Fortunately, I was working at Meta where there's like a billion really, really talented people who've been there, done that. So I had access to these resources, people, and like actual just like content, which made life easier. So I took several steps, sorry, to convert this weakness into a strength. One was learning from others. I started by observing presentations from senior leaders in my company and just other renowned presenters in the tech industry. I focused on how they structured their narratives, the types of data they included, and how they engaged their audience. YouTube is full of such great presentations on like just tech or just general topics as well, right? Second was just practicing and getting feedback. I looked for opportunities to practice my storytelling skills, such as team meetings or cross-functional discussions. I also ended up joining a Toastmasters. And after each presentation, I would ask people for constructive feedback and also ask them what were their three takeaways from the presentation. You'd be blown away like what you wanted to pitch and what the other person got. There's such a disconnect often. Like people would tell you three completely different things that you hadn't even thought about. And third was get a mentor. I reached out to a senior executive in the company who was known for their excellent communication skills to mentor me. And they were, fortunately for me, they were like open to doing that. Their advice was like super, super valuable. And they became my thought partner. And like I worked with them for like about 2 or 3 presentations where they gave me feedback when I was building the content, building the pitch, and also give me good feedback on my delivery. Three things help me: learning from others, practicing, and just getting a mentor.
Mm. Wow, I really, really enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rohan. This was amazing. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks, Dwayne.
Awesome. And thanks for listening to the Got 10 Minutes podcast. To stay in touch, please follow us on LinkedIn or the podcast app you're listening to this on right now for more episodes. Take care.